Hi everyone, Dom Famularo here, the Artist Series at a Distance. It just continues and gets better and better. Would you please welcome Anna POPOVIC? Thank you so much for joining us, Anna.
Awesome. I'm so glad to be a part of this. Thank you for the invitation.
Anna, as a blues singer and a guitarist from Serbia, you have got some story that I want to capture here because it really is exciting and you are inspiring at many levels. So please tell me, how did music enter your life? Where did this all begin in the process of you being in Serbia? Where did it start?
Started really long time ago, and as a kid, I was able to hear a lot of great blues records thanks to my father's blues collection. So, we grew up listening to great blues, rock, funk, soul, loud, and on daily basis. It was always in the house. So I was very fortunate to get into it on a very early age. You're talking 2-3 years old. I was listening to great records by Elmer James, B.B. King, Buddy Guy, Junior Wells, Albert Collins. We got really it was just a sound we were accustomed to, just on a daily basis, and really great, really good. And there was no Serbian music in the house whatsoever. It was just James Brown and Freddie King, and it was something that was just always there. And then on top of that, I would see my dad jam with his musicians. That was like a few times a month in our home. So my mom would cook some great food, and they would just play till 3-4 a.m. And I was always fascinated by it, and I would stay late to hear them play as a kid. Later on, I used to go and watch the blues bands. There was just a few active blues bands. When I was about 12, 13, I would go and watch them just about start their set at almost midnight, and I would be allowed to stay for 1 or 2 songs, 3 songs. It was worth it. And then I would have to get back home. But, that's how it started. And finally, I formed my band and started playing. So music's been in my life, all my life. Mm-hmm.
So it's in your life. You're 15 now, and you're really kind of getting involved, and you're hearing these bands. What did you feel like this was going to be your life now? This was going to be it?
Oh, well, I loved it. I loved every single thing about it. As I said, my dad would just drive me to the blues club, and sometimes he would come in, sometimes he would just wait for me outside, right? And it's 11:30, just the whole hassle around it, the bar, the musicians, the gear. It was so incredible to me, and then what I said, I get to stay till midnight, which is like really to catch 3 or 4 songs. And then I would leave, but just everything around musicians was always just very inspiring to me, just wanting to be a part of that. Obviously, at that time, there was no women doing that. And so I couldn't really say, that's what I'm going to do. But if you ask me what I would love to do, that was number one on my list. And, it still is number one on my list. Yeah, so it's just always been fascinating. And just from the point of a performer, a songwriter, and somebody who can maybe create something that could inspire people, and not so much as backstage or whatever, hanging with musicians. That was never really the top reason, but really more of from the art perspective and what you can give to people, what you can give as far as music or a piece of art that can inspire generations, inspire somebody, make them feel good, get them through a difficult period, just anything like that. And of course, blues is all about that. Blues is the roots of blues, of course, came out from a lot of suffering of all kinds of different ways and reasons through generations. So it's got this big energy that people want to really be inspired. They want to be moved. They want to be proven there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? So that whole combination of blues, I guess that was what drew me to it.
Boy, that's so powerful, because the blues, of course, challenging times, just develop this music for people to sing from the depth of their soul and play this music that just spoke of the emotions and the challenges they were experiencing. So at this point, were you taking any lessons at all? Were there any teachers available?
Oh, yeah. I had a guitar teacher called Točak. Well, Serbian people would know who I'm talking about. It's a phenomenal guitar player who was basically my teacher back then in Serbia. And again, I was having lessons once a week, and there was some beginning jazz stuff that we were doing at some point, and basically rock guitar. rock guitar theory and just getting introduced to a lot of blues at home, but then on those lessons that was really more of a rock basic, really famous riffs, or let's say famous rock bands, and a little taste of songwriting and guitar riffs, guitar solos. That's how I started. But then later on, I got to study at the conservatory in Holland and 2 conservatories in Utrecht and in Rotterdam. But those beginnings were certainly in Belgrade. Yeah, that's how I first started. So I did study guitar off and on throughout the years.
So did you start at that point meeting other musicians and getting together and playing with them or jamming with them? Was there a socializing going on with many of the musicians?
At that time, the only thing I remember, it was a giant classroom with tables, like where the students sit. And I guess that music school was renting that place out once a week, which was probably Saturday, Sundays. I don't remember exactly, but I know there was no other students. And we would just sit on top of those tables with our guitars and play, and then you just come in and everybody's like strumming, there's a lot of noise and everybody's doing their own thing. And it was kind of hard to get those, 20, 30 students to listen. That was that time, we were all teenagers and it was all exciting. By the time I got to Holland, which was my study time, that's the first time I really got into a Dutch pub. And I was like, wow, I can actually play a song here. And I can just jump on stage. And that was then. Back in Serbia, it was more like really lessons. I met my first band, Hush. I had a gig in a really tiny place somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Serbia with my dad. It was the only time actually we played together as a duo. So we were playing some Elmer James, and my dad was on guitar, I was playing slide. And that's when a bunch of young guys were in the audience and looking really cool and everything. Found out they're looking for a guitar player and a singer. So that's how we formed Hush, my first band. It wasn't through a jam session or anything. It was just luck that they were right there. Because as you can imagine, back then when I was studying, blues wasn't particularly in, among my generation. Yeah. So in order to find a band, wow, that wasn't that easy. That want to sing in English and play whatever, Albert Collins, play some blues, play ZZ Top, play Allman Brothers Band. That was the repertoire we were doing that time in Hush. So and started working on our own songs. So I had luck to meet them, and it took a year before we could find a pub that wanted to hire us. A lot of them told us no. A lot of them said no. And finally, after a year, we were like, we got a gig, and it never stopped. We had four nights a week gigs, and we made clear we're not coming back to those bars that didn't want us. So once they reached out back, they was like, no, not this time. You didn't want us back then, so now we're not coming for sure. So we never had, a need for gigs. There was always gigs, no matter where. And I lived in so many different places in the world, but even that in the biggest crisis, talking about crisis, this is pandemic, right in the middle of it, or hopefully past the middle of it. But looking back at those times, it was big crisis in Serbia, but we still managed to play, and play for 4 nights a week when a lot of other people couldn't get jobs.
Well, even though the band was a rhythm and blues band, you had elements of funk and soul in the sound, right?
Yes, always. Yeah, I got a green light to do that because I'm not born in Chicago. I wasn't born in Texas, and I could just do my own thing. So I never felt like there were boundaries for me, or I didn't want to recognize them. That's for sure, because I always wanted to try different things in my music and connect styles and try something different. And the bottom line is I'm European, so it's going to be different.
Well, this is so interesting because at this point now, you're starting to play across Serbia. You end up playing also in Greece, and then you performed at the Marsoni Blues Festival in Senta. And that took you to the invitation to go to Hungary. So, now you were starting to get around.
Yes, we were. Yeah, it was very unusual. But even then we noticed there was something that was attractive to the people and just outside of the regular small blues scene in Belgrade. So we got invitations to play in different countries surrounding, which is a big deal. For kids playing blues again. This is like the time you have to think. Time when I guess here in the States, I remember Johnny Lang was starting. He was young, he was a kid, Kenny Wayne Shepherd. But apart from that, it was older people music, So, I mean, in order to a young band like that trying to sell the blues, it was unusual for that time, right? I mean, there was nobody else before them. So and that was the same in Serbia. And now on top of that, we really sing in English, which is not their language. So it was kind of a new, for those festivals to accept just some kids trying to play some blues. That was kind of new. And the same thing, I kept on moving. So I mean, I'm getting the same thing in Holland. I moved to Holland, played my first jam session. Everybody was welcoming, come sit in my band. I'm playing a festival, come sit in tomorrow. I went to sit in, that's how I started, just kind of jamming with people. But that was also unusual. First of all, being a woman. Second of all, being Eastern European, trying to play some blues. And then on top of everything, being young and being a guest to all these bands that were around for 20 years. In Holland, it was a serious scene. I mean, comparing to Belgrade, Holland had a serious scene. They had blues bands. They were there around for a long time. And of course, there were all these festivals that were going on. There were a lot of highlights. I mean, I think what really got me to get to the States was Gary Sloan was performing, which was an American blues guy performing in Belgrade. And I played a jam with him. And then he said, oh, I think Americans would love you. And that was it for me. That was it. One sentence. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. Well, everybody was going, no, come on, stay here. They got so many great blues acts. They don't need you. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a try. And I did everything I could to make myself available here and release records. And the first record was released, I think 2001. That was a German label, Rough Records, and we were nominated for the W.C. Handy Award, which was the first continental European artist, to be nominated for such a prestigious award, which is American Blues Awards right now. Today.
And that was the solo debut album, Hush.
Yes, that was my first record.
Was there an album before that called Hometown on Hush?
There was an album that came out only in Serbia. So this was my first international release, Hush, that was dedicated to my first band. That I left, obviously, because I moved to Holland. And I mean, I recorded in Memphis. I flew to Memphis. It was, again, very difficult times because you couldn't get, a visa to travel. So at that time, Serbia was not accepted as a country by America. Absolutely. And so I got my visa on a piece of paper. They didn't even stamp it in the passport. And then I had to complain 3 times before I actually got it. Once I got it, I remember I was so happy. I ran blocks from the embassy to the station, just in awe and just so happy because they denied me twice. And I had the whole crew waiting in Memphis, Jim Gaines, and the studio was ready and musicians. And they were like, they denied me first time. They denied me second time. I came back with even more paperwork. And I finally got it. I never forget it, that adrenaline and excitement that I'm going to just be able to cross the ocean and record in Memphis, which happened. Yeah, which happened. And that record, resulted in the nomination. It wasn't always easy, that's for sure, but it was a hell of a ride.
Well, I think what's interesting is the fact that so Memphis was the first city you kind of landed in.
Yes.
The U.S. from Serbia. So here you are in Memphis. You're in the heart of blues and soul, and you're in the thick of it. This album was phenomenal, and was that kind of where you committed to performing? You kind of made the commitment. This is what I'm going to do.
Absolutely. That was really sort of a proof that it's going the right direction, and I was always very cautious before that when people ask me, you think you're going to do this for a long time? No, I don't know about that. But once that happened, I was like, okay, now I should really drop everything else and try to concentrate on music and only music. So it was really an invitation. And of course, the first few festivals they booked us, I remember Memphis in May was one of those. And I think it was the New York State Blues Festival. That first run was just incredible. People just went nuts. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to play here. I want to play for this audience, American audience. And I'm just going to enjoy doing that. It's just a different audience than European audience. It's just on a good day in a blues festival outside, there's just such energy. While in Europe there's great festivals, it's just a different respond to it. People just here just have fun and just openly have fun. They're just not too serious about it. Where in Europe everybody's kind of want to judge and see what's happening, but here it's just an all feel good day, and I just wanted to be a part of it.
Absolutely. The American audiences are pretty special. But here you are now. You're in Memphis. So how long did you stay in Memphis at that time?
Oh, I think it was a long recording. I would think maybe 3 weeks. Oh, I loved it, and I came back later, much later, to live in Memphis for 3 years. But that first time, I remember city was a wreck. They didn't have anything. There was nothing, except music. So, but still, I was just amazed by it. And then so many years later, when I came back, it was really nice to see the difference and see how city grew, and that whole Midtown section wasn't a hood anymore. It was just a good place to be, where I ended up living, by the way. And it was just wonderful, studios and music. But even that first time, I just got welcomed by Memphis people and studio people and background singers and bands and I was 22, 23, and I loved everything about it.
So what was it like? You get to Memphis. I mean, this is almost to a certain degree culture shock, because you get into Memphis, the people are moving a little slower than normally and how it is. They're much more laid back. They are fantastic people. But then there's the food. There's all the different ribs. And did you step into that world of the culture end of it?
I'll never forget the breakfast, eggs and bacon, the way they do it in the South. It's nothing like that. Yes, of course. Everything was a culture shock for me. But at the same time, it felt also so familiar, because I grew up on those records. And to me, those records was those sounds that you hear when you're a kid, but you don't know where it comes from. So finally, you are the stomping ground where all these records were made, where you can feel that soul and you can feel that music. So in a way, it was coming back home, because on the musical part, that was way more my home than Serbia, So I felt actually really, really at home, just like a place, you were supposed to be in, but you're not, or a place you've seen a long time ago, and you're back, something like that. It was a very warm feeling. It wasn't like I wasn't feeling like an alien landing there. It was just like, wow, this is it. Now it all makes sense. Now those bass lines make sense, and those drum grooves make sense, and everything just finally falls into place.
Boy, how beautiful. So now you release your second album, Comfort to the Soul, but you had been studying jazz guitar. So now it's a fusion of blues, rock, soul, and jazz in that one, right?
It was. And I don't think I stepped away from it on a lot of records. I just think I kind of pushed that always, that it's going to be a little mix of everything. And I studied a little jazz, I studied world music and pop department. So it was always, a search for the song, just really a search for the song, and search for just not falling into cliches and not giving people something they already heard on the previous record. So I just always made my homework to just kind of dig a little deeper and try to come up with new styles of music that really come together with blues. So blues was always my basic to everything. And while doing that, I was always, what I said, dig a little deeper, go in and learn more about the blues. And there was always a few tracks on every record that were very, very roots, very blues, but not more than a few. For the rest, it was searching for this new sound and something I haven't done before. So Comfort to the Soul opened a lot of new, there's, David Z produced part of it. And obviously there was some funk involved, and some of the rock tunes, and again, partially recorded in Memphis as well. So it was all kinds of different good tunes, I think. And, it was the first time that, I started writing before that, and on a record before that, I actually, first time I started writing in English, which is, if you think about it, it's really difficult, because it's not your main language. And then on top of that, you need to fit into the blues genre. Yeah. So you want to tell a story in another language, and then it needs to fit to a certain genre. It's not always easy. Comfort Soul followed, where I think I was a little more comfortable with that, with writing. And then from I think from Unconditional on, I was really like getting to the point where I can just relax and write and really come across with a message without just thinking, okay, that this sentence sounds cool. At that time, it was still like, okay, let me hear it in a movie or something. This sentence sounds cool. Let me put it in a song, because it's not my language. But later on, I could just write from my experience, especially, can you stand the heat, Unconditional, and still making history, obviously, about the political situation in Serbia and where I was growing up. Still in History was the first record where I really was writing from my heart, not worrying if that sounds cool or not. I was free enough to just put words on the paper and make it into a song.
So now you're committing to a higher level of composition. You're starting to really step into a world of, I want to find who I am and I want to send that message out to the world. This is extremely exciting. But you were meeting certain people when you played like a rhythm and blues festival in Belgium. Then you met up with Solomon Burke. So that sounds like there were all these different influences that were happening that were guiding you along the way.
Absolutely. I mean, meeting Solomon was a huge deal. And, he was at the top of his career, right? He just got a Grammy. We met at the awards, actually, because he was nominated the same year he won, the same year I was nominated. And then later on, I met at the festival and he was like, he remembered me and he's like, what do you do tomorrow? You wanna come on the road with us? I was like, yeah, I just finished my tour that same evening. So my band was waiting for me to drive back to Holland. I was like, I'm not coming. So let me just get my suitcase out of the van. I'm going with Solomon. So we went. I went on a tour with them for a good 10 days or a week of just, high-end festivals in south of France and playing high-end shows. And also it was the first time for me to see, opportunity to see how a band like that works. Now, remember, that's still old school. We're talking old school blues.
Yeah.
Frontman who is very tough on his band and tough on his, management on the road. He wants a certain kind of way. I thought that was the way everybody wants it, but we are still dealing with an old school blues man who, for a lot of his life was struggling and finally got the recognition he deserved. So it was really a school, to see how he gathers the band around every night after the show. He always has something to say about the groove. Is it the tempo's slow, the tempo's too fast? The singer did that, the bass player did that wrong. So he was really in charge. He was a king. He thought of himself that way, and he really was in command. Although he was really, he was, I'm thinking probably already in his 80s, but he was still very much in control of the musical part. That was a big lesson for me, to learn how you get the band together, how you demand 100% every night from everybody, but everything from the grooves to how the background singers would dress, it was incredible. One time we played a show and then, he gathers us all together, everybody's, in the room. And he says to a lady singer, he says, this dress you have on, that would fit Anna really good. Tomorrow you wear this dress. But I think nobody liked that. She didn't for sure. I felt really uncomfortable with taking her dress. But that was the deal for the next day. So it's like no way around it, And I mean other stuff as well, as far as how to play and how to be a stage performer. He had all kinds of tips, Yeah.
So in this process now, you're starting to learn not only the performing in it, but the business side is now starting to become more organized. You're learning, just the composition side. When you wrote songs, did you learn to protect yourself with publishing and copywriting?
Yes, not in the beginning. Yeah, well, I did, but I mean, things didn't work out the way I expected in the beginning, that's for sure, with the record companies. Our first record that we did on our label was already, years ago. That we did live, our first live DVD, that showed me that you shouldn't trust record label when they say they're not selling records, because that's simply not true. Back then, things change, but I do know that lots of things that I could permit myself to live good for music that I play, to record records the way I want to always have a budget to record, was thanks to that I kept my publishing for myself, and that I was successful in doing my business side of it. Because if you leave it up to a record company, you can be poor forever. That's it, especially in the blues circuit. So what can I say? Now the times have changed. Now everybody knows that. That's no secret anymore, that you can do, you can do a lot of promotion on your own. You can do a lot of promotion with social medias, and you don't necessarily need a record company. That's what a lot of artists are discovering and going, in different directions. But I was early with that. I only had a few records before I went on with Delta Roof Records, before I went on with my own label.
So it's kind of interesting. So you kind of learned, you had a chance to experience some of the old school way that things happen, and then you had to adapt on this verge of this new school process.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. In a lot of ways, as far as the band front woman, how you get the band to do what you want, and of course all the way up to the business side of it. First of all, we were the band that I always had concerts on both sides of the ocean, and always, and a lot of those, we had always full agendas. There was not a year, except this year, and the 2020, that we didn't play 100 or 130 shows or more per year. Now this is always divided on two sides of the ocean. Now there's a lot of, calculation how to do it. You need to fly everybody around. We do a week here. We want to choose the best shows. I don't want to have the band sit on one side of the ocean just because it only routing wise works, and then miss a whole bunch of good stuff here. So, we were always used to a lot of traveling. I never minded that. I don't think the band did too. So I just wanted to pick and choose, being able to pick and choose and get the best on both sides of the ocean. So it went on for years like that, 100, 130 shows, and, you learn as you go.
Well, that's always a part of the university of the street of hard knocks. You learn as you go in the process, day by day and performance by performance, for sure.
It's ever changing, it's ever changing, and it's changing as we speak, especially now. And you need to be busy, fast and be accustomed to the new circumstances. But I knew one thing for sure, in blues at that time, lots of bands were just accepting that it's okay to drive from Florida to Nebraska for a gig, and they just didn't even ask questions about it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to just drag this tour out. There's quality time at home. Something I need at home. I need to get ready for my recordings. I need to have time to write. And I'm just gonna play the shows that are feasible, and not just wait around Monday, Tuesday, have the band sit around. So we kind of brought that structure, and the agencies went along with us. That we don't necessarily need to be on the road 5 weeks, 6 weeks at a time and stretch it all out. Let's just get the good shows, get in and out, So it was, sometimes we would just think of that. And I think because we were outside of the American blues market, I guess we were new to that. And then we just made our own rules as far as that goes.
Well, so interesting. So what's the writing process like? How do you write? What inspires you to write? How does that process work for you?
Anything I hear is an inspiration, potential inspiration. Anything I see, things I feel in a moment. If I hear somebody say something cool, I got a bunch of cool guys in my band, so they got all this cool things to say, and every time they do that, I write it down, and obviously I share the credit because it's not my thing, but I do get inspired by what people say. We got conversations, we talk about different things and that are happening in the world today, and whatever we're feeling, and everything can be a song, so I'm always busy with writing. I start both with melody and with lyrics depending on a situation. Lyrics can be powerful enough to create some sort of a beat to it just by speaking it out. You always get it. You right away get into some sort of a groove. And recently I got back and listened to Sting again after years and years. I used to listen to him in high school. But I listened again and I was like, he is incredible. He fits the lyrics to the nature of the song, right? So he's got this really over the top, well thought of songs, that are almost like you're reading a masterpiece writing, But then he matches that to a really high end musical part that's maybe with, all these incredible musicians, jazz musicians. And then he has a fun song that is pretty, limited as far as the lyrics go. And it fits this kind of a fun, not too serious music background. So I always like that. I like to feel the lyrics. Do they need some really high-end structural form, or are they just fun lyrics? Are they just blues lyrics? Do we want to go back to the roots? Do we want to, awaken that kind of a roots, old school, that needs to be particular, stripped down form of music? And the same goes for lyrics. They need to be cool. They need to be straight to the point. And, so it's always a play for me. I still write, and I think that I write always new. I don't think I repeat myself. And with the new record that we are writing now, I'm writing with my band, with my bass player specifically, and really entering some new territory I haven't done before. So I'm very excited. I think that's a really moving force for a musician. It's not the amount of concerts. It's not the management. It's not really, it's just the creativity is inside of you. If you can keep that fresh, and if you can keep that moving for yourself, you're on a good path. Once that dies out, you keep recycling, you keep searching for that inspiration. That's not good. So I'm just so excited that I still find subjects to write about, and in a new way, grooves to tackle that I haven't done before. So yeah, pandemic done good things too. It did. It gave me a lot of time to dive in. There's no agenda, nobody waiting. So search, go deep and search.
Search, and go deep. Those are powerful. That's a powerful advice. Very, very good.
Thank you.
So 2014, you're nominated for the Blues Music Award, Contemporary Blues Female Artist of the Year category. So now, what does it feel like being a role model now for female guitar players? You're out there leading a path.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And it's just so great to see that in all kinds of different musical genres everywhere, not even talking about blues, you see women stepping forward. They're playing the instrument. Suddenly guitar, bass becomes female instrument because they are the one buying it. They're the one getting lessons. They're the one, not afraid to step out and show what they got. And I think it's a wonderful thing nowadays. I see online all kinds of girls, from all over the world, with their instruments in their hands, playing drums, playing bass. It's just wonderful. When I was starting, it was absolutely a masculine world. It was a macho world, and you needed to be a certain level in order for them to take you at all serious a little bit, but they never really did back in the day. Now the girls are stepping up, and they can't even, they can barely play. They're proud of what they present, and they just do it. And I think that's just wonderful. And what's even better? Nobody's there criticizing them. There's no macho guy coming out and saying that that's not good enough because, we all should be Stevie Ray Vaughan's, and we all should be, George Benson's. No, it's all okay. Of course, there's a lot of freedom in the genres. So no, I feel great. And I, at the same time, there are women that were there before me, and I love to see them play too. I love to see Sue Foley's back. She's playing, and she was there. I was still in Serbia, and Debbie Davis, and those are women that started playing back when really it wasn't cool to be a woman and a guitar player. So I always admire, and of course the nice thing about blues is there is really you can play it forever. You can really play it forever if you have enough ideas. If you come with something strong, with a strong material, nobody's there to tell you you can't. And nowadays we have a lot of women playing, and I think we should have more. And one day there will be a festival with equal amount of female and male acts on the bill, I hope. And I think that time is not too far.
Well, I think someday the festival will be all female artists, and which would really be exciting. And, doors have been opened by the great Bonnie Raitt and all these different female artists that have got this. So it's so great that you are pursuing going through those doors and creating more opportunities for more women to have the confidence and belief that they can do it.
Of course. Now I'm going to talk about Bonnie. So Bonnie's the queen, but she was, of course, really out there, and she was one of the best male or female guitar player ever. And but apart from her, there's been just a few, that would get that chance. So times are changing.
Times are changing for sure. So then, triple album Trilogy comes out, and you've got some incredible players and guests on that are on here. Joe Bonamassa, Robert Randolph, Cody Dickerson's on this here, Bernard Purdy, the rapper Al Capone. You got some serious players that are coming out here now. How did that come about?
Oh my gosh, that's my favorite record, I think, of all, because I just felt so much involved and behind that whole project. It didn't make much sense for people like, they buy 3, why don't you do it in 3 different times, or just like buy 3? I remember when I was a kid, I had this triple CD of at home blues compilations, and I just thought, I would just love to have something that falls open like that, and I just give them different sides of music. And finally Trilogy happened, and the idea was just I had so many songs, and I tackled one style. It was more of a funk side. I went to New Orleans, and at that time I was living in Memphis, so I was very often Memphis, New Orleans, Nashville, Memphis, New Orleans, Nashville. And I was just doing different work with just people I like. So I would go record a few basic tracks in Nashville, come back to Memphis, go to New Orleans, record with other people, come back. And that whole process, I think from the start of it to the end lasted 3 years, because it first had to get a concept. Then I had to get the players, writing some songs. Basically, all the songs fit the musicians that were playing on the record. There's more than 30 musicians on that record. So I would just write and say, okay, this is sort of a jazzy. I want to have Bernard Purdy play, or I'm going to have the New Orleans Jazz Cats play, or so I would have sometimes even the same title done 2 different ways. Same title in the blues way, in the funk way or rock way, and let me wait till the end which one is going to be. And I had all these basic tracks that I could still use. I mean, it was an expensive record. I paid all these people, I didn't use all of it, but I gave myself a freedom to just really go for the best, and just get the right lyrics to the right musician, right style of music, and just put it on a certain CD. So we got volume 1, funk and soul. Volume 2 was rock and blues. Tom Hambridge produced that. And then volume 3 was jazz. So it was just incredible. Yeah, just a wonderful compilation. And if anybody asks me even now, I don't know much about you. Which record would you recommend? Get Trilogy. You get a lot of songs, and a lot of different variation of music from me, but a lot of songwriting involved, and just great songs and great musicians. So we featured that. And
then, Like It on Top, recorded in Nashville with Kev Moe. Kev Moe is fantastic.
Yes, he is incredible. And we've been waiting on that for a few years. We were like, we should do something together. And when that opportunity showed, like, where we kind of emptied out agendas, that was a lot of fun. That was here when I was living in Calabasas in Los Angeles. He came over and he stayed for, I would think, a week just writing. And we would just, start early in the morning and go till 6 p.m. and just write for a week. My husband and he would cook. I was just like, you guys cook. And it was just the best, best times. And we are all fans of him, so the kids also, my kids are fans of his music. So it was just wonderful to have him around. And then I went to Nashville, and we recorded in his home studio. And it was wonderful to be a guest of his family, and they made me feel very welcome. This was just wonderful. And that again is a record that's so much different than anything else I've done as far as the sound. It was a more clean, natural sound to it and production, and just some real funky players on it. And some roots blues, some true songwriting about all kinds of subjects, about female empowerment, domestic violence, anything you can think of connected with that strive to get further in what you do as a woman, and try to get, your male colleagues to accept that in any line of work, not just guitars, and anywhere else, that you see the change. And my records always follow that change. So that was one with the Me Too campaign and everything that was going on, and not just that, but it was one of the things that initiated that record, and seeing female players out there and doing that thing, and of course seeing more female, on top of all kinds of bills, doing business and doing it very successfully all over the world in politics and fashion, whatever you would think of. There's lots more female out there. So that was the record that was talking about it from all kinds of subjects and sides.
How beautifully, Anna, we have so many young musicians that watch this, and musicians that are maybe not so young, but are now starting to get involved in music. And as they watch this, then they hear it and they're fans of what you're doing. In closing, what would you say to this generation to spark them and give them the confidence and courage that they can do this? You came from Serbia. Here you are now recording and performing with all these great musicians. Your dream is alive and well. What would you say to them to fuel their dreams?
There is never been as clear as now that you really don't need to be born in a cradle of blues or any other music that's your favorite music, and to do what you love and to be successful of it. I don't like social medias. I'm not crazy about it. But the fact is, people that know how to do it can do it from anywhere in the world and be successful and have people book them. And that's a very positive thing to this moment. We didn't have that back in the day. You really had to, perform at the festival and have a great show and only hope that so many people are going to see it and remember it to tell. Nowadays, if you post that and that goes viral, that it can be no matter what place in the, on the planet, it's going to be noticed. So I would say, unfortunately, you have to make a use of that, like it or not, use that. And that's a positive thing, because you don't have to be in the hands of, I don't know what kind of a management that can put you on a shelf or record company or stuff. You can do things yourself. Now, another thing is, like, everybody wants to hear a good show. It still is. Ticket to Ride. You make that show pop, you make that band sound great. That's it. Nobody can take that away from you, So, and then no matter what kind of a crisis, then I can say, because I started back in Serbia with all kinds of crises, went back through 2008 and all kinds of other crises. And it was always, no matter how bad it is, people always want to hear a band. They always want to have a drink and hear a band. And that's a good thing about, whoever is considering being a musician for a living. I still say, do it, and it's going to give you a lot of joy. Be true to yourself, no matter what people say, be true to yourself. There's a great interview by Michael Kiwanuka. I'm a big fan. And talking about, years that he spent trying to be recognized, and listening to people who will tell him that he's not good enough, And he said, I'm finally living because I stopped worrying that I'm not good enough, And I mean, that's a very interesting, it was a powerful message that I'm thinking if that's something that kids should know. Don't waste your years. Yeah, something like that. He said, I wasted my years always thinking I'm not good enough for this. Just stop doing that and just like come up with whatever you got. And that's good enough,
Well, that's absolutely great advice. And you do that so well. You have absolutely opened up a dream of pursuing your passion. You are doing it. Your music lifts people. It is positive all the way around. Anna Popovich, you have been fantastic. Thank you so much. The Artist Series at a Distance, you have been great. Thank you so much for your time. Stay well, stay safe, and I hope to see you in person someday.
I hope so soon. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be among these incredible artists. So I appreciate your call and hope to see you on the road soon.
Thank you so much, dear. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Dom Famularo here, the Sessions panel. This is so exciting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Click the subscribe button to be a part of what we're doing. The views help us tremendously. All of your comments, we read them and react to them. This is incredible. The support you're giving us is great. The Sessions panel. We'll see you real soon.